Tired all day, but then you can't fall asleep at bedtime? Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel show. All right. So, if you're tired all day long, you're just feeling low, just cannot make energy. I mean, it's just, you notice other people racing around, they're doing things, they've got energy all the time, and you just feel flat. You just feel blah. It's just like you get out of bed, you think, hey, maybe I'll start this day different, and that energy just does not return, does not come back. So let's find out why. And first thing we've got to look at is, why are you fatigued? Because if you're tired all day long, there's got to be a reason. And there can be actually many reasons for this. And sometimes some people will just get this monthly. Some people, it just could occur like once a month. Some people it's occurring maybe once or twice a week. But some people it's actually daily. And when it starts to get daily, yeah, we start to consider this as chronic fatigue. And then, you're just always tired. Now, the intensity may vary through the day, but there are multiple causes for this. You've got to think, okay, am I getting enough fuel? That doesn't mean am I getting enough caffeine, because you shouldn't need the caffeine. So if you're, craving the caffeine, if you got to get caffeine, if you got to go through multiple cups of caffeinated drinks to get you through the day, it's not a good sign. We got to start thinking, hey, do you have a blood sugar issue? Because this is fuel for your body and your cells. Do you have an anemia? Are you getting enough oxygen to your body and cells? Are you eating a good diet that supplies you long-lasting fuel? And even if you're eating a good diet, is your gut inflamed and you're not absorbing what you eat very well? I mean, there's actually quite a few things. Is there inflammation somewhere in your body? And that's also where it kind of goes into this. Is there, do you have a specific health condition, a specific type of, when I say disease, it doesn't have to mean you got some major disease, but do you have just a certain condition? Let's say you've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia or something, is that again a part of this whole problem, which that's really going to be an effect. And then, do you have chronic fatigue syndrome? Do you have myalgic encephalomyelitis, which meaning is your brain and your spinal cord inflamed, and why? So there's reasons for these things that we've got to find out why you don't have energy through the day, because there's always a cause. And in a lot of people, it's different. There's not a magic thing, and we can, take stimulants all day long and keep going, but eventually something's going to happen and it's not going to be good. So then the problem, the other side of this story is, okay, now I'm tired all day long. I have zero energy, but now I can't even fall asleep. I can't shut it down. So then you lay in bed, and what happens? You release epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol. Now, norepinephrine, epinephrine, what's that? That's adrenaline. So now it's like, hey, I'm tired all day. I finally lay down to go to sleep, and now I'm wide awake. Not only wide awake, but these basically stimulate the upper brain stem. They're what's called the reticular activating system. You don't have to remember that. But what does that system do? That system is what's supposed to keep you awake during the day. That's the system that's supposed to keep you focused. That's the system that if it raises enough, it could trigger your fight or flight system. And this is why some people, if they release enough adrenaline, they're laying down at bed, and what's happening? Their heart starts to race. They start to get anxious, racing thoughts through the mind, feel chest constriction, all kinds of negative, bad symptoms that are not supposed to be occurring at bedtime. Cortisol is supposed to drop and be at its lowest at bedtime, so melatonin can rise and actually help you fall asleep and stay asleep. But this is just the opposite. So what can drive this? Well, metabolic issues. If you have diabetes, if you have thyroid issues, if you have an autoimmune condition, some other chronic health issue, totally can drive this. So then it's finding out. This is what we do, is we look and find out what's underlying these kinds of conditions, what's causing them or driving them, and deal with those things, and then sleep can return. Also, do you have an emotional or psychological stress going on? If your boss yelled at you all day, you come home and there's been a death in the family, there's been some, there are all these different factors that can trigger stress or trauma. Of course, and some people say, oh yeah, I had a stressful day, I didn't sleep last night. Well, yeah, that can be kind of normal, but when it's every night, not good. That needs to be dealt with. infections, which can really relate to these conditions, because usually a lot of times these issues are driven by infections, but then it's finding out, why is the immune system not killing these things on its own? But specific infections, if you catch a virus, if you have a parasite, yeah, these things can actually affect your sleep wake cycle. So it's dealing with those things. And if it's like, hey, I caught the flu, I didn't sleep well, but now I'm back and everything's good, hey, no big deal. But if it's like, hey, again, night after night after night, yeah, there's a chronic infection. So big potential there. Or if you've had a head injury, a traumatic brain injury, a concussion, maybe you've been in an auto accident, maybe you've had a fall, maybe you've had a sports injury. Any of these things could also drive this. And then we've got to look at the brain and say, hey, this happened 3 years ago and you're still not sleeping from it. Why? What do we need to do to get that under control? So the problem is when people have these issues, they end up just doing things to try to fall asleep, whether it be taking medications, whether it be drinking alcohol or taking supplements, anything they can do to try to get some sleep. And I don't blame them, because you need sleep. This is when your body heals and repairs the most. But you've got to find out what's causing it, what's underlying it, because if you don't, then it just keeps perpetuating. All right. So this is what we do. We look at these things, we find out what's underlying this, what's going on, and then deal with this. And then what we find is result from that. All right. Well, I hope everybody got some great information out of this. God bless, and I'll see you on the next video.